a person that has a view on the IPL being called off, Marty. All the Aussie players are back. The Test Championships around the corner. Will they get back onto the grounds?
They've just entered into a ceasefire mediated by the USA, so it'll be interesting to see what goes on in the next week or two. But I think both parties were quite happy to say at this stage this was getting a little bit too serious.
Well, thank goodness for that, Marty. I'm all for peace. I just hate seeing conflict around the world, and any time you can strike, some middle ground and just get on with a bit more love for each other, I think we're a better place.
Tell you what we've got today, a cracking meeting at Northern, the Tab Touch Northern Stakes, and it is race number 8 on the card. If you haven't had the form guide out and had a look at it yet, I suggest you do, because it's Group 3 action. It's worthy of a Group 2.
There's a number of the runners from the Quokka involved,
Joey. It's a terrific field. So what an opening for the season for the Northern Racing Club. And they've also got that heat of the championship, WA Racing, WA Provincial. So that's a good meeting. So it gets underway today. Race 1 will be going at 12:17. So don't miss that start. We're pacing in the wheat belt. Calaberan, 6 races there, 12:46. He'll be calling the action there. No one in as yet. No, we'll find out that down the track. And we've got no Sunday chasing. When are we going to have Sunday chasing back?
I don't think we are.
Ever?
No, I won't say ever, because ever's a pretty long period of time. But in the short term, I can't see it coming back. So just the actual number of greyhounds that we have in the system now, 6 meetings is that sweet spot at the moment, as I understand it. And there's not a lot of dogs missing out on runs. So if we'd have taken it back to 6 meetings and there were a pile of dogs missing out on getting a run each week, they probably would have reinstated it. But I think it's kind of just sort of the number of our population at the moment. That 6 meetings a week is pretty much bang on.
And it'll wear Shane Train out too. He needs a day off. He needs a day off.
He doesn't need to worry. Once a month he's away for a fortnight holiday, the great man. But all credit to him. It keeps the stress away from him, he tells me.
First hour, James Sully, Sullivan, Simon Hill, Chris Nelson, Racetrack, Ralphy. Hour 2, Brad Hardie, Michael Johnston talking greys, Emily Suvaljko. What a night she had here at Gloucester Park on Friday night. But our man is joining James Sully, Sullivan. A very good morning.
Hello, Marty. Hello, David. I'm still giggling like Shorty. The Shane Train needs a day off. Give me strength.
He's the king.
I don't want him worn out.
No chance. Worn out from partying, that's more likely for the train. He's over in Bali as we speak, so you can just imagine Sunday morning, 6:12 a.m, he'd be just about getting home about now.
I tell you what, boys, he would be enjoying it. I hope he's caught some of the NRL over the weekend.
Oh, what about this? Tell us about the draw. Let's start off with that. Cowboys 30, Panthers 30.
Oh, but the whole scenario, just what a weekend. And as you say, let's start the last game because it's fresh in the memory. I tell you what, they went in at halftime 18-12, the Panthers, and I thought, here we go, they're going to click home. But all of a sudden, we know this Cowboys side, especially at home, they get such a big crowd up there. And, mate, Robert Darby, I tell you what, I watched the game of footy last night, the poor winger for the Cowboys. I think he gave away 4. He ended up scored one himself that got him back into the game. And one of those games you thought this poor kid's just going to get absolutely hammered. But it came back, and as you say, boys, it went to Golden Point, and neither side. Panthers probably had more opportunity to nail it in Golden Point, but, yeah, cracking game of footy. Really did enjoy it.
So how long do they have of Golden Point before they say all bets are off?
5 minutes each way.
5 each way.
5 each way, and that's if you can't nail it, you get a point each. So
That's fair enough.
Become a bit of a field goal. It becomes a bit of a field goal-a-thon.
Yep.
And but I keep saying, just try and score one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but as it's turned out, a point apiece, and right now the Panthers will take a point the way they've been going of late. So one's better than none, as they say. And the Dragons took on the Warriors in another very tight encounter. In the end, it was the Warriors sneaking home with that field goal.
Yeah, it was. The Warriors led 14-4 at half-time, and I thought, here we go, they're just going to kick on with it. But the Dragons got themselves back into it. And you talk about field goals, Shorty and Marty, and the best thing about it, this Luke Metcalf, he didn't wait till the end. He kicked his in the 69th minute, and that just gave them that breathing space, you know, with the 1 point, which did make the difference in the end. They were leading. It was 14-all right up until that stage. He said, let's take it now, and they hung on. But that's a massive win for the Warriors. That's only their third win down there in Wollongong in the last 16 hit-outs. So, and all of a sudden, boys, they've lost 2 games, the Warriors.
Yep.
And that's for the year. So now we're actually starting to see they're winning in over here on the East Coast, which is so important. They're undefeated at home. That's a tough grind, but once again, I like this kid. This Luke Metcalf. Mate, by the end of this year, people might be saying, who's Sean Johnston? Because at the moment, he's just putting his hand up, scored 1, kicked 3, and kicked the field goal. Fair day at the office.
Fair day. What about this other amazing match? Raiders at halftime lead the Bulldogs 20-0. What's the final score, Sol?
32-20.
You're kidding.
And I'm still shaking my head. I actually just watched the replay this morning because I was calling yesterday when it was on, and I'm still shaking my head. It was just like impact of a packed house. That was the best thing. Sold out at GIA Stadium. Don't worry, there's plenty of blue and white there too. They snuck in nicely, drove down the Hume Highway. But this is what we wanted, 1v2 and under pressure. That's the true word. And the Raiders are outstanding in the first half.
Ooh.
They scored that late try in the 37th minute. I thought, they would roll on with it. But Stephen Crichton had other ideas. Him and his Bulldogs, once again, Crichton, he put on a masterpiece, Stephen Crichton, the captain of the Bulldogs. They're unbelievable. And as you say, they didn't just win. They win, as they say in horse racing terms, they careered away.
They certainly did. So the contrasting halves. The first half, if you're a Raiders fan, you go in and give yourself a pat on the back. Righto, boys, more of the same. The second half will be fine. And then the Doggies have obviously gone in at half-time, been revved right up, and then piled on 6 in that second half. Crichton, Salmon, Montoya, King, Kikau and Carraz all over. And 32-20. This is the sort of victory that I guess creates, from a Bulldogs perspective, enormous belief. Canberra right now, one of the form sides in the competition, to be spotting them a 20-zip lead and then wander home with, a 12-point victory would, I'm sure, do enormous benefit for the Bulldogs' belief within their outfit for the remainder of this season. And it really does serve as a notice to the rest of the competition, hey, we are never out of a contest and we have got enough gunpowder up front to blow you up in a half of football regardless of what the scoreboard says.
Bang on, Shorty. That's 120%, and that's exactly my feeling after this game. All of a sudden, and the Raiders are disappointed, no doubt, but what it's shown, they've got a little bit of work to do because, the progression from this Bulldogs since Cameron Ciraldo's come to the club, all of a sudden, as you just said, then teams are looking over their shoulders and thinking this mob's real, and they are.
Okay, so on Friday we spoke about the unpredictability of the Broncos. They're playing the Rabbits, the lowly Rabbits. Broncos at half-time, the long odds-on favourites, 14-0 up at half-time. What's the final score there?
Yes, 22-14.
Oh, stop it.
This is unbelievable. They've lost 4 of their last 5.
Yep.
The pogo stick's not bouncing, isn't it?
No.
For this Broncos side because, mate, and come at the hour, one of my favourites is come at the hour.
I know.
Man. In the 70th minute, the 77th minute, 49 metres out. Latrell Mitchell just said, give me the ball. Mate, he'd done nothing all night. He kicks a 49-metre field goal, which is a 2-point field goal in rugby league. And then he played a little trick at the end, didn't he? He sort of laid down like he was playing dead. Broncos players didn't tackle him, so he just said, I'll just dive over and score. But, this is a real concern for Broncos fans. But let's talk about the grit of this Rabbitohs side. This is massive. And the bottom line is, they're missing some cattle. We know that everyone put their hand up the other night and they just got back into the fight. It's probably the best win I've seen from the Rabbitohs in the last 3 years.
Yep.
Incredibly, the Broncos and the Rabbits have both now got the record of 5-5 for the season.
Ooh.
And yet, if you go to a man on the street that follows a game, you go, "How's the season of the Broncos tracking?" Oh, yeah, they've been pretty good so far. What about the Rabbits? Oh, they're just going
terrible.
They're both 5-5 at the minute, so it's incredible how your records can sneak up on you, Salt.
Oh, very much so. And if I'm one club, I'm happy. If I'm Wayne Bennett, I'm smiling. And if I'm Michael Maguire, I'm concerned because there's obviously now Ben Hunt's out for 6 weeks. That's not going to be too bad. I was starting to think, and I think I might have said to you, Marty, that I just think now Hunt and Reynolds, it's time to split them up. You know, I know they're getting a little bit older and a little bit slower because at the end of the day, Hunt's gone for 6 weeks, but Ezra Marm, he'll play Queensland Cup this weekend. I'm not sure if it's today or did he play yesterday. But, yeah, he'll come back into the side next week. They are missing a spark. I know Reece Walsh isn't there, but Ezra Marm, regardless off the field, I don't care. On the field, the kid can play footy.
Oh, we know that. But they just, I don't know if it's those missing players or whatever, but as we discussed on Drive on Friday, this has been going on for nearly 3 years now. Even, as you said, Sully, even in that almost premiership year, they were inconsistent. And there's two different coaches, so you can't blame the coaches.
And this is the thing, Marty, and the more we start to think about it, it's the players. We can't blame the coaches because it's the same habits created. So, you know, they've got to fill some cracks, boys. That's a concern.
Indeed. Got a couple of games to look forward to later on this afternoon. Midday, we see the Melbourne Storm $1.19, West Tigers $4.70. Line betting is big at 15.5. And then 5 minutes past 2 this afternoon, Manly $1.68. The Sharkies at $2.20. Line betting 2.5. How do you see these two games unfolding, Sol?
I'm just starting to. I know West Tigers have been good, and they've won. They have been good, but they haven't been 80-minute performances. I got a funny feeling this Melbourne Storm side at the moment, they've been a little bit off, haven't they? Let's be totally honest. Obviously, got beat in Golden Point last week. I think they might be revved up today. I think that line. I'm going to take the line on. I think they'll score some points today. I just get that feeling Bellamy's hasn't been happy with him. A little bit of tinker. I still look now. I think Big Nelson's named as a reserve. I think Big Nelson will come. I think he'll come into the starting team today. So I'm going to go the Melbourne Storm, Marty and Shorty. I think and win well. We know what they're like down at Amy. This next game, I can't split it. This one at Brookvale, Sea Eagles and Cronulla. As we know, they only met in Perth in round 6. That was only a 6-point ball game. So this is a toss of the coin. You just think with Origin just around the corner, Tom Trbojevic needs a big game. Ola Kawadu needs a big game. But you look at Cronulla, they've got points in them. So I think a high-scoring game. And so as I said, I might even sit on that. I'm going to do what I did on Friday, Marty.
Yep.
I'm going to go the Storm at the line, minus 15.5, and either team to win by 10 and less.
Yep.
But we get $3.61 for that. Then I'm going to a couple of my old favourites. Marty, you'll pick this, or Shorty will pick this one. The Melbourne Storm back row. Let's go Katoa into Britain Nakora. So Katoa and Nakora, $6.02 to score any time.
Like it. Katoa and Nakora will be cheering hard for those two to get over the line throughout the course of the afternoon. A massive day of NRL upcoming, Sul. I'm sure you want to shout out to all the mums. They're the greatest. They make us tick over.
They do indeed, and happy Mother's Day. I tell you what, boys, there's a big thing, and we all know this bloke in rugby league while we've got the listeners listening. Jared Hayne today plays his first game in 7 years, and he's playing in the Ron Massey Cup for the Wentworthville Magpies, and he's got to come up against 1T Sullivan playing for the Bulldogs. So
okay.
Toby could have a bit of fun today.
Yeah, sure could. That'll be a must watch. And on the way in, there was an interview the boys recorded with Mark Guy during the week. Geez, he speaks well, the big guy, and it painted a really positive picture, didn't it, for the Perth Reds going forward?
Indeed.
Absolutely. I was fortunate enough to, and he does. MG's outstanding. I interviewed the North Sydney Bears CEO Gareth Holmes yesterday here in Tamworth, and he's just so excited about it. And I literally ran into Mick Potter, the fullback for the Western Reds, having breakfast here in Tamworth. So Potts is really excited and up about, and as you said, MG, we've heard Sheepy, he's been everywhere. And as I said, Gareth Holmes, the way he spoke about the joint venture and how it's going to work, and he just said it's just so wonderful.
Brilliant.
From a Bears point of view, boys.
Yes. Hey, Sol, just quickly, Sol, it's a little way off, but I'm putting you in charge of the Bears, and I'm giving you, obviously, you get unrestricted access. You can literally handpick. I'll give you 3 players within the league, and it's wish stuff. They're not guaranteed to be able to come, but if I could give you 3 players to build a franchise around, who'd be on the top of your wish list?
Firstly, give me Bellamy and Panizzi.
Oh.
Craig Bellamy and Frank Panizzi to run it.
Yep.
Give me them. But apparently I think Brad Harper's got it. If I'm going anywhere, I'm going Payne Haas, Jerome Hughes, Herbie Farnworth.
Righto. Beautiful.
Geez, Farnsworth would be nice. He's been good to us over the getting over the line on the way through with some of the try-scoring action.
Top of the ground. Imagine trying to run him down. Look, we've got to get moving, Sol. Where are you busking today in Tamworth? What time are you kicking off?
I'm in Tamworth, boys.
Yeah, you're busking this afternoon, the main street?
No, that'll be this evening after 4 games.
Beautiful. Good on you, Sol.
Stay safe, boys.
There he goes, James Sullivan. Simon Hill's joining us right now to talk the World Game. A very good morning, Simon.
Morning, guys. How are you?
We're well. EPL started off with an upset. What about this one? Everton 3, Fulham 1 at Craven Cottage.
Yeah, Fulham are in a bit of a hole at the moment, and they've hit that rough patch of form at the wrong time of the season, really, because they're trying to push for a European spot in the Conference League. They had a great start against Everton. Raul Jimenez giving them the lead after 7 minutes, and they dominated that opening stanza, but found themselves level at the break. A deflected effort from Vitaly Mykolenko past Bernd Leno is probably at least partly at fault for all 3 goals, you'd have to say. Second half, Everton were good, much better, and Beto Michael Keane with further goals to round out a 3-1 victory. So Fulham down to 11th. They've got Brentford and Man City left to play. European qualification now looking rather unlikely. And further trouble for Fulham is that their coach, Marco Silva, has done such a good job this season, is now being linked with a move to the cash-rich Saudi Arabian League, where a lot of players and coaches are going to top up their super. So it'll be interesting to see if he's still at Craven Cottage next season. But Everton setting themselves up nicely for that final game at Goodison Park, which is going to be very emotional next week against Southampton before they move to their new stadium.
Well, Simon, the man on my left, he's been buzzing around the studio all morning with a win of a Brentford. 1-0 winners over Ipswich is right up and about. They found a bit of form to finish their season off.
Yeah, they have. Unbeaten in 6. 1-0 was enough against already relegated Ipswich, and Kevin Sharders suddenly come into a real rich goal-scoring vein of form. His 4th goal in 3 matches, enough for all 3 points. So the Bees still praying for Europe, that they could possibly finish 8th, and that will probably be good enough for a place in the Conference League, because Crystal Palace, they're relying on Crystal Palace losing to Manchester City in the FA Cup final as well. But, a good spell of form for Brentford, another clean sheet. They've got Fulham at home and then Wolves away to finish. And I've already mentioned that Fulham are in a bit of a dip at the moment. Wolves have not got much to play for. So, little Brentford could well be in Europe next season, which will be quite the story. As for Ipswich, nothing much again in an attacking sense. Claims for a couple of penalties turned down, but that's their 13th home defeat of the season. And obviously that's a major reason why they are back in the Championship next year.
What's going on here? Saints 0, Man City 0.
Yeah, stayed up to watch this and wish I hadn't bothered. Another stumble by my boys ahead of the FA Cup final against Palace next week. They could have drawn level with Arsenal on 67 points in second had they won. But really a very flat performance. 72% possession, 15 corners, 26 shots, but really couldn't trouble Aaron Ramsdale on too many occasions. So it was all about Southampton, really. They clung on for a 3rd clean sheet of the season. I think they only had 2 shots in the entire 90 minutes. But crucially, that's their 12th point of the season. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it avoids a share of an unwanted Premier League record low haul. They were level on 11 with Derby County, who set that record back in 07-08. So at least they've avoided that little place in history. City back in the mix, I guess, in terms of Champions League qualification. There's a whole clutch of teams that could finish in those spots. They've got Bournemouth at home and Fulham away to finish. and you'd probably say they need to win both to be sure of Champions League football next season.
All righty, on to the next contest, and the Seagulls 2-0 winners over the Wolves.
Yeah, again, Brighton staying in the hunt for Conference League qualification. First half, Danny Welbeck penalty, his 10th of the season. That's the first time he's hit double figures since his days with Manchester United back in 2008 or 09. And a second half strike by Brian Grudu scored his first goal in 19 games since arriving from Mainz in Germany in the off-season. More than enough to see off a fading Wolves, for whom safety was long ago assured. That's back-to-back defeats now for the Wanderers after a run of 5 consecutive wins in April. But they'll go again next season. Vitor Pereira's done a good job there to get them safe because they were in big relegation danger halfway through the season. So a bit of an end-of-season feel to that one, but a good 3 points for Brighton who keep their season alive.
And Villa away from home to Bournemouth. It was Ollie Watkins with a late first-half goal, and Villa held that lead for the rest of the match.
Yeah, Villa now up to 6. That goal coming in first half stoppage time, the 6th minute at first half stoppage time, just a slightest touch off a cross. He's a good player, Ollie Watkins. That's his 75th goal in the Premier League for Villa, which makes him the club's top scorer in the competition, overtaking Gabby Agbonlahore's haul from many years ago. And they managed to survive the last 10 minutes as well, playing with just 10 men. Jacob Ramsey sent off, so Villa now guaranteed to finish no lower than 7th, which will give them a spot in Europe next season in the Conference League. But, of course, they prefer to be in the Champions League where they did so well this season. And this win gives them a big opportunity. They've got a tough finish to the season, though. They've got Spurs and then Manchester United away in their last 2. Bournemouth still a mathematical shout for the Conference League. They go to Man City next Tuesday. And then host relegated Leicester on the final day. So still a few issues to be resolved in terms of the European spots.
Indeed. I've got a handful of games to look forward to later on tonight. Simon, we'll get your thoughts on these. Newcastle United 2.18, the draw 3.65, Chelsea $3.10. Man United $1.98 favourites, the draw 3.65 with the Hammers at $3.60. Nottingham Forest $1.33, draw 5.30, Leicester City at 8.50. Tottenham $2.70, the draw 3.60, Crystal Palace 2.45, and it rounds out with Liverpool $2.12, the draw $3.50, and Arsenal at $3.40. How do you see those games unfolding?
Yeah, I think they've got the numbers about right, to be honest. Newcastle-Chelsea is a huge game later on today. A pivotal clash in the race for those top 5 positions. It's a long trip for Chelsea. It's a hard place to go, St James's Park. They did have the luxury, though, of resting 10 of their first-choice players for their Conference League semi-final against Djurgården of Sweden during the week. They won that game, by the way, so they're in the final in that competition. Newcastle in 4th at the moment, but they're ahead of Chelsea only on goals scored. So I guess a draw would marginally suit Newcastle more than Chelsea, but they'll want to win. Because that would take them 3rd ahead of Manchester City, and Champions League qualification, along, of course, with the Carabao Cup win, would represent a great season for Newcastle. Chelsea got a tough finish. They got Manchester United at home next, and then Nottingham Forest away, who are still in the mix. Then that Conference League final against Real Betis. Newcastle go to Arsenal next, then Everton home to finish. Both teams in decent nick. Chelsea unbeaten in 6. Newcastle only 1 loss in 9. I'm predicting a score draw in this one. Manchester United, I think, will be too good for West Ham, even though we know their Premier League form has not been anything near where it should be this season. But West Ham in a horrible run of form, taken only 14 points from 15 games since appointing Graham Potter. Only the bottom 3 with a worse record. No win in any of their last 8. United unbeaten in their last 16 home matches in the Premier League against West Ham. So even though they're obviously focusing on the Europa League final against Tottenham after completing the job against Athletic Bilbao during the week, I think United will be too strong at home. Ditto Nottingham Forest against Leicester, who are already relegated. Forest having their dip at the worst time of the season, only 1 win in their last 5, and they have lost their last 2 at home. But Leicester, I just can't see getting anything from that short trip to the City ground. And the Tottenham Palace game, Tottenham is always the game that you look at and think, well, anything can happen. Again, I'd probably tip a high-scoring draw in this one. Spurs on a bit of a high after winning through to their 9th European final during the week. But they've got one eye on that. And, of course, Palace have got the FA Cup final next week against Manchester City. So could be a few goals in that one. So a draw for me in that game. And Liverpool-Arsenal is another one with a slight question mark against it. If there was something riding on it for Liverpool, then you'd probably tip them to win, given how strong they've been this season. But the Premier League title was long ago decided. Arsenal still not mathematically sure of Champions League football. 3 points would go a long way to that. I would probably, again, be looking at a draw in that one. But probably the bookies have got it right. You'd say that Liverpool are the strong favourites. Not lost a home league game to Arsenal since 2012. And Arsenal have lost 3 straight in all competitions. So, yeah, it's a toss of the coin whether you go a home win or think that because nothing's riding on it, maybe a score draw.
Exciting, with the A-League season coming to a conclusion as well, Simon, and a big result for Melbourne victory there yesterday, 2-1 winners over Western Sydney.
Yeah, I called this game last night at Combank Stadium, 16,000 there. Very professional performance by Melbourne victory. They probably weren't the favourites going into that game last night, to be honest, but Daniel Arzani was the inspiration, absolutely outstanding. He was the instigator of both goals scored by Casey Boss, his third in 3 games, by the way, and Zinedine Mashash with what proved to be the winner. In between, Zach Sapsford equalised. The Wanderers only briefly really threatened to take control. Even though they dominated possession, they couldn't find a way through a very resilient defence. So victory through to the semi-finals again, back-to-back years in the last 4. They've got to face Auckland over 2 legs, which is going to be tricky for them. First leg in Melbourne next week. All 3 Victorian teams through to the semis. Western beat Adelaide on Friday night by 3-2 at Ironbark Fields. So they will play Melbourne City in the other semi. So very exciting first week of the semis next weekend.
Magnificent. Simon, really appreciate your time as always here on The Aftermath on a Sunday morning. Have a ripper Sunday. Look forward to our chat next week.
You too, guys. All the best.
Blah, blah, blah. Let Marty Young and David Shortte do all the talking on The Aftermath. Sunday morning at its best on Tab Radio Racing and Sport.
Yes, we welcome along Chris Nelson as well. Good morning, Nelso.
Good morning, Marty. Good morning, Shorty.
Yeah, good morning to you, Chris. Great to be catching up with you. Fresh off another very busy day of racing, particularly things starting to really heat up in your neck of the woods. It was a great day of racing yesterday at the Gold Coast. We got through 8 of the 9 before they had to tap things out.
It's a funny place, isn't it?
Yeah, they did. And you would have seen, I think it was the 8th race, the Bracelet. It was dismal. It was very dark and very dismal. So, and look, it continued to rain after that. So, no surprise to see the last race abandoned. I can tell you this morning, I might run that last race at Ipswich on Wednesday. So look out for that.
And it's an important race. Let's not forget, it's the bat out of hell, Chris. So
it's the Meatloaf Special.
It is the Meatloaf Special. So that must have been in terrible conditions for them to call that race off. It's always a time-honoured feature on the card each and every year.
Yeah, Meatloaf wouldn't have been worried about a bit of rain, that's for sure.
He would have seen it. Don't worry about that. Well, what about this floozy in race number 3? We've been on a tote coils. Tony Gollan has said all along he's got a firing, and Angela Jones just rides her so well.
Yeah, she does. And look, got a spot up outside the lead, and that was the key there with Floozy. And I think they're going to push on towards the Tattersalls Tiara at the end of the carnival, and why not? On the way she's going, they might give her a little bit of a brief let-up and then head her towards that. But she was way too good again. Good positive ride, as I mentioned, by Ange Jones going forward there from that wide gate. She got across quite okay. Scud was quite good, finished the race off well. I thought Russian Alliance was overs in the market, proved to be the case, ran third at $20. Was a good effort. Lady Shotgun ran on well. Adiala ran on well. A few there, Exotic missed, the track was against, so forgive that run. And Torabella was another one. Blake Shin said she did not handle the track at all. And there's going to be a lot of horses come out of that meeting that reversed their form pretty quickly because that track was very wet.
It was. And it was interesting listening to Bernie Cooper on the day. She was suggesting that the top of the track, so the surface and sort of the top crust, was really, really wet. But once you got through that, it was still quite firm underneath, which is pretty unique because a lot of these tracks generally, if the top's really soaked, generally it does roll down and it becomes slippery all over.
It's right, and look, the times probably backed that up because they weren't running really bad sectionals earlier. There was some 11-second sectionals early on in some of these races, so you can't be that heavy if they're running that. And I think she's right. I mean, once you get to that, past that first little level there of grass where it looks as though they're throwing dinner plate clods up all over the place, it's really, really heavy. It's a little bit firmer under that. So problem is we have all these different tracks with different profiles. So it's hard lining up one against the other when they're in the wet range. But it is what it is, boys.
And you best get used to it, Chris, because that place that you're living now, speak of unpredictability, my goodness, looks like an absolute paradise one moment, and then all of a sudden the world just dumps every little bit of H2O on it for a day or two, and things can change awfully quickly.
Raining now.
Oh, there you go. So, yes.
That's how it goes.
Well, as a Melburnian, at least you're used to it, Chris. So, on to a race number 4, the listed Australian Turf Club Trophy over the 1,200 metres. This was a nice winner, Rock Ribbed.
Yeah, it all went to plan, though. He mapped beautifully. There was no other pace in the race and went out 36.30, came home in 34.09, so there's further proof that the track... They could run times. 34.09 last 600. They were never going to get to him. Needs Some Luck was very, very good. Missed the start, second last, tempo against, and was beaten 1.5 on the line. The Inflictor, he was quite okay. Boom, Talk, too wet for him. He doesn't get past anything that's on the better side of soft. So Rock Rib had the favours. Needs Some Luck, very good. 9th
win of his career and has started very good odds its last 2 wins, Rock Rib. I reckon he's underrated. Group 3, Ken Russell Memorial. What a great man he was. Beedman, didn't he? Put on a show here. Wow, won by 8.
I don't think we expected this. He was a different class to these. Now, obviously, everyone thinks he's the Atkins horse now, and he may well be, but I wouldn't be taking any short price yet.
No.
And he didn't beat a lot. He really didn't beat a lot. Once again, the tempo was there to help him. There's going to be some other horses come from Sydney and maybe even Melbourne that are going to be a lot better than what he beat yesterday. Sunrays was good. Fabulantes ran third, beaten 10 lengths, come out of a maiden win last time out. So, good win, impressive win, but I'm just not getting too carried away at this stage.
On to race number 6, the Group 3 Gold Coast Guineas. And this was a timely win and a fitting win for the horse named after the recently passed superstar of the Carlton and Perth Football Club in Peter Buzzasto, the Buzz. And very impressive win defeating Merchant Gold and Tuned Air yesterday.
Yeah, and great to see Annabelle recognise that after the race when she was being interviewed. She was well aware of the connection there with the Buzz, so that was good. Loves the track and trip as Buzzasto. He just strolled away here, won by 6 lengths. Beat Merchant Gold and Tune. They were both big odds. Look, I think it's more about forgiving some of these horses here. Emirate didn't handle the going. Wanneroo was a massive, massive drifter there. Don't know, apart from the winner, I don't know if we can take a lot of form out of this race. I mean, it's more forgiving. You follow the winner, obviously, but you forgive Emirate and you probably forgive Wanneroo as well, and a few others. Well,
Blake Shin knows how to pinch a race on Antino. He's done that before, and he did it again in the Hollandale.
Yeah, it was Toorak handicap all over again, wasn't it? Yep. This race was won in pouring rain. He made his move at about the 650-metre mark. He'd rounded them up by the home turn and then just took over, and away he went and won by 3.5 lengths. He is the key to this horse, Antino. I mean, we did mention a couple of weeks ago that first up run. The last 100 metres or so of that race was quite okay for him, Antino. I think that was in Sydney, from memory. The all-aged it might have been. So he certainly improved here, but on he goes to the Doomben Cup now. Whether Blake Shin rides there remains to be seen. He did cop a suspension, so he's either going to miss next week the 10,000 ride on Schwartz, or he'll miss this ride on Antino in a couple of weeks. Faulkner Park was good. Miss Jolene was terrific at $51. She's flying this prep. Lindemann pulled up coughing post-race. Buckaroo didn't handle the going. and Alias ran second last, didn't handle the going as well. So forgive all of those.
All right, and you can get the trumpet out for this one, Chris. So race number 8, it was the listed Gold Coast bracelet. You were pretty keen on the prospects of Panito, and the daughter of trapeze artist sent you home a winner.
Yes, similar sort of, not quite the same as Antino, but Jason Collett got on his bike, 600-700 metres from home, had a lovely card into race, swooped up on the turn and then just raced away from them in the straight. And as I've said, she's always given the impression she wants further, and now she'll head on to the Oaks, and, it'll take a good one, I'd say, to probably stop her. So Panito, she looked really good, and now that we know that she'll handle any type of ground. Stun Worshipper is a real wet tracker, ran third at $21. Some of the margins here, though, 6.6 lengths the third horse was beaten, 13.4 the fourth horse, so 7 lengths back to the fourth horse. So they were coming in like cats and dogs here. Mary Diana didn't handle the going, so forgive her.
Okay, let's go to Gosford now, and then we'll sum up both meetings. Race number 8 was the Quality taken out by Know Thyself, ridden by the Welshman Ashley Morgan.
Yeah, he's on a real
Yes.
labour. Yes, Ash Morgan, he's going very well. Know Thyself going so well also. Good, tough win, I thought, here. Wide gate, went forward here, Ash Morgan. Took any bad luck out of the equation. The horse was too strong to the line, so very good effort. Depth of character. Last 2 runs in Brisbane have been wins at 1,600 metres. Down the highway, 1,600 metres again, finished off well. This horse is bursting to get out over further, so keep following Depth of Character. 1,800 onwards would be ideal. And Mayor of Mount Buller, she was good running on, as she generally does.
And in the last, it was Björn Baker. And worth noting, I heard an interview with Björn yesterday morning, and they talked about his best prospects for the day. And he did say Raikkonen, but he also said, just with a caveat, that I think there's more in store the next 2 runs for this horse. So clearly it wasn't bolted down for yesterday, yet it was still able to win in very impressive fashion, and that would be enough for me to think that the next couple of starts we'd want to have this horse on our radar, given those comments from Mr. Baker.
Yeah, and I've got him in my horses to follow for that exact same reason, Shorty. I think I heard the same interview as you. So, yeah, he might have needed the run, but he didn't need that much of a run, and he's going to take good improvement from that. I'd say we'll probably see him up here in Brisbane. He did come up over Christmas for a Magic Millions race, but he failed there, but there were excuses, and his form prior to that was very strong. So he's the horse to follow, Raikkonen, out of that last race.
Okay, what about horses to follow overall?
Yep. Needs some luck. The Gold Coast, race 4 needs some luck, and race 8 we're going to stick with Panito. She's only going to get better, I would suggest, as the distances increase. Gosford, I really like the win of Hidden Achievement in race 2. We'll get out over further. That's the wet track probably helped it further than 1,200 for Hidden Achievement. Depth of Character also further, and the one we mentioned there, Raikkonen in the last race. No tips today, guys. We're on the Polly at the sunny coast. And
Okay.
As I said, it's very, very wet.
And we look forward to the Doomben 10,000 next week. Big meeting, Spirit of Boom Classic, Rough Habit Plate, Chairman's Handicap, Boombra Handicap, the Bright Shadow. It's going to be a ripper at Doomben.
Wouldn't it be nice if we had a good track? Wouldn't it be lovely to report in on Saturday morning and say we're on a good 4 at Doomben? We cross our fingers, guys. You never know.
Oh, let's hope that you get the lion's share of it between now and about next Thursday, Chris, and you never know. Get those hair blot dryers out, and you never know what might be possible. Appreciate your time, mate. Have a ripper Sunday.
You too, guys. We need the helicopter. We need the old days.
The Super Supper.
That's it.
Good on
See
you, Chris.
guys.
There he goes, Chris Nelson, about to catch up with Racetrack Ralphy. So we'll take a break. He'll be up next.
Racing and sport from different angles. You're listening to The Aftermath on Tab Radio Racing and Sport.
Good morning, Racetrack Ralphy.
Good morning, boys. Very good meeting at Caulfield yesterday, but if you want to have a quick chat about the Goodwood, let's put the mouthguard in.
Yeah, let's do it now. What were your thoughts?
Look, I think once we have a look back at the times and we can relate it to Cleo Cat from the previous race, I think it was probably generally is one of the lower Group 1s of the season.
Yep.
on pure metrics. 197 versus 110 dead, but this was a masterclass from Jamie Mellon, and probably you have to say a masterclass from the Price Kent team as well, getting a horse to really peak on the big stage in the big day. They're a funny stable, and I say this admiringly, that a lot of their horses really come to play first up and they're screwed down and they perform and they're at their best early, a bit like a Waterhouse Bot team, if you like, a Victorian version. But some of their good horses, they let them build into a prep, and this has been one of them. Yeah,
we mentioned that. I think it was on Straight Up on Thursday with Russell Collette when he asked me who I thought was a chance in the Goodwood, and I said the horse in it who's really peaking at the right time is Reserve Bank. He's always had a rap on him. He's put in a lot of good runs previously without winning. You knew he had ability, and as you said, peaked. Terrific ride, Jamie. She cut the corner while Mark Zara went wide on Giga Kick. And I just want to put a shout-out, too, for Generosity, beautifully ridden by Lucy Fiore. Runs fifth, beaten 1 3/4 lengths for Simon Miller. It was a terrific run.
Yeah, we did a preview podcast on the Friday and had a real good look at it. And, I mean, the one thing with Generosity, it's funny how the natural reaction after barriers come out in big races is, it's drawn well, it's drawn poorly. I reckon if she draws 10, she runs a place. It's just that the way those lanes are at Morphettville, you need that full momentum out wide, and she just couldn't get it. You could tell what she was trying to do, and there's not room sometimes. You're going to try and go inside. So zero criticism there. Giga Kick is I reckon, is one of the more fascinating ways of looking at the punt, because there was just zero doubt it was clearly the best horse going into the race, but its first up profile was only just. It hadn't previously been set for a race first up, but to do it first up at 1,200 when you're a dynamic sprinter is a test, and I think it was just a case of a rock hard fit Reserve Bank able to take that run, duck and weave, as you said, with Jamie, whereas Mark had to just ride the percentage race, which was just loop the field. He was good enough if he was at his best and probably had a run, but he hadn't, and I reckon that was the difference.
It was an interesting affair, though, the Goodwood there yesterday. Big day of racing at Morphettville. Let's have a look at the card at Caulfield. And this horse in the first, there was a lot of spruik about it going in. Prince Tycoon, the money was strong. Duly saluted for the punters, and Daniel Moore there in the first, Ralphie.
Yeah, and I like there was a good gap to the rest, because Rosengala had trialled really well. We just mentioned Price Kent, and it just got beaten on debut, but it really came on there, and there was a good gap, and I reckon 1-3-2s without having a real good look at the IVR times aren't through yet. I reckon that's a nice measuring stick to kick off with. So I think there's more to come with both the first and second horse. Ferneo
in the second for Annabelle and Robin. I just want to mention we were talking about Bazusto earlier on, and Annabelle Neesham acknowledging the passing of Peter after the races yesterday. This is full kudos to her, because I reckon I heard about 6 starts ago she couldn't even say Bazusto properly, and then somebody's obviously worded her up, probably the team that owner, and for her to pick up on all of that just goes to show the depth of character in her as well.
Yeah, 100%, and RIP, the great man, Peter. I'll just in 30 seconds. I did a gig with him at Princes Park one day. We had to walk from the wig to the Fort Pocket. He said, "Ralphie," I go, "Yeah." He goes, "There it is. That's where I took the mark of the year."
Little mini trumpet.
Yeah, 100%. Well, this race here, they went quick here. It's Coey didn't settle for the rider, and Golden Crusader went 1,000 miles an hour and pulled up sore. So I think Jayla Kennedy was a bit stiff there. She was just caught in that sort of vacuum on Suryab, and was probably the best horse on the day. Wasn't in that race circumstance. Ferneo's racing well, and Galileus probably needs... When's that, Jericho? That's probably the type of race it needs, but it'll keep running well.
All righty, on to race number 3 on the program. Wonder Kid at the big odds for Bo Mertens, proving too good for preferential, and I like the return run of Golden State Warrior.
Yeah, that was hard to miss, wasn't it? It was super. There was a couple of horses on the day, and we'll get to the other one. Freight Train was one of them that it just had to be, a map risk. And sometimes you get through and you look like an idiot, but sometimes you're going to say, hang on, where's it going to be in the run? It had no tactical speed. So if you took the 350, good luck. And I think that was the case. Bo was just too smart on the kid. They've run very slow times. He's just stacked them up. Import would probably come on from that. But as you said, I think Golden State Warriors won. There was a bit of a tweener run from the Adelaide Cup, and they'll be winning a distance race shortly. 1,400 metres, race number 4, taken out by Medea for Team Hayes and Luke Curry. Yeah, this was a fun watch. This is a good horse, boys.
Yep.
This is a real good horse. I think that they said, I didn't hear any post-race interview. I was too busy torturing myself with MCG, but this was a horse that they said they were going to send to Queensland if it won, and I would not at all be surprised if it wins stakes races in Queensland and comes on to be a real good horse in the spring as well. So I absolutely follow it. Rocking at midnight, the blinkers went back on it after a run in traffic at Flemington. Its figures at Moonee Valley when it won were very sharp in the blinkers, so it's ready to win as well. So first and second can be followed with confidence because one will stay here and one will go up north.
All righty, on to race number 5. This was a benchmark 78 for the fillies and mares over the 1,400 metres, and Avery for Jai McNeil defeated She's Pretty Rich in Extreme Virtue.
Yeah, Avery first prep with the Freemans, trialled really well before its first up run and then just had a couple of okay runs, but then yesterday was able to get the right race for it and peak over 1,400 metres, so that was its go. Pretty sort of basic race for the off-season though, but and they'll probably all meet again soon, so nothing to stand.
Moody Coleman seem to be working their way into very good form. Mary Eliza impressive in race number 6 over the mile.
Yeah, and I reckon, without seeing the times, but they've run much quicker than the next race, that they've flown here. And that's a big effort by Mary Eliza because it came from that in-traffic run at Mornington and they walked in that race. So to go from a slow race in traffic and virtually a barrier to go in a fast race, everything else was out on its feet. So I think a big tick there, and it's probably going to keep winning again. Muirfield put a big circle around it. I think it's going to have a win. And So Energetic Legend that had to stalk that speed off sort of, a nothing 57-day break. So, and not much substance before only having the 2 starts. So I think Energetic Legend could be the sneaky one. Muirfield definitely, and Mary Eliza.
Very nice. On to a race number 7 on the program, and Angry Skies dive bombed them. Celine Gaudray, Jesus, was a tight finish. Sabin loomed up as though it was going to win, just missed, and Ocean Beyond back in 3rd.
Yeah, they walked, yes, and that didn't really show the true test of the race here. And Angry Skies was fit and in the right part of the track in those super wide lanes. Real Carcarado is the horse to follow out of this, boys. And Ambassadorial Alex Ray, please use the Waterhouse Bot team theory and go to the front and lead fast. That's going to be its go. Team
Hayes again with Jamie Mott. War Machine wins race 8.
Yeah, I reckon he'll be on the float with Medea. That's a very good horse, and they've flown here. So this is good to see Oscar's Fortune show a bit of his WA form here. Jimmy the Bear, terrific return. The Open was sound. This would be a real strong form race for the winter, boys. Forgot You was sound after a big layoff as well, and I think there's a race to follow with a lot of confidence. All right,
and Prancing Spirit wins the last for Hannah Edgley. Let's get your black bookers for the day, Ralphie.
Black Bookers for sure. War Machine and Medea, pretty logical. The Extreme Virtue I didn't mention, I should have, and Real Carcarado, those who got beaten. Okay, you're at the MCG. Tell us about it quickly in 30 seconds. In 30 seconds, I can high five with Shorty. Bad kicking of goals, bad footy. If you can't nail the goal when it counts, you're going to be struggling. And we played well enough to be in front by a fair way at 3/4 time, and then we had no petrol left, and they smashed us. Yeah, you've had a history of doing that, haven't you? 100%, yeah. I'm going to the Gabba next week. Feel sorry for me. Okay. Thanks, Ralphie. Good on you, boys. All the best, Ralphie. Punters, we'd love to hear from you this morning. Any questions for Brad Hardie? We're going to be talking all things footy. How will West Coast go today? What did you make of Fremantle's performance on Thursday night? Some cracking games yesterday. We saw Gold Coast back onto the winners list from a very brave Western Bulldogs who were rattling home. The showdown never fails to deliver, and that was another great contest there yesterday as well. And we saw Essendon hold out the fast-finishing Sydney as well. What do you make of those games of footy? We'd love to hear from you this morning here on the program. Yes, Rick of Ross Moyne has texted in, boys, as a Dockers tragic, I think the club has pulled the wrong rein when it announced during the pre-season they would contend for the premiership. Their season launch function positively gushed that message. Considering the young list that has turned out in most games and the players have clearly got ahead of themselves. Poor psychology and has cost us big time. Rick of Ross Moyne. It's a hard one, isn't it? Because you want to have some expectation and you want to set high goals for a playing group. They've been happy to accept mediocrity for many years now. I don't think there's anything wrong with having ambitions of being successful, but you need to deliver on your expectation from
a supporter perspective, once you put that expectation out there, people generally then raise the bar and they do turn up expecting victories, and a side that win, on a regular occasion, and their best has been good on a few occasions this year, but there's a fair gap between their best and their worst, to be the fair way of saying it.
On the Aftermath, it's time to introduce the 1985 Brownlow medalist from the Footscray Football Club, Brad Hardie. Introducing the boy from Hilton, the AFL guru, Brad Hardie.
Yeah, a few technical difficulties behind the scenes, but we've finally got Brad up on the phone. Hi, Brad.
Morning, Marty. Good morning, Shorty. Good to be with you. Oh, forget about the AFL. What about the Buzzuster? On the Gold Coast, Shorty. I just knew it straight away because the conditions were perfect, like the 1978 Grand Final, Shorty, where the Buzz took on East Perth by himself in the wet, and he kicked 7. Nearly kicked 8 that day, and he won by 8 lengths yesterday. Oh, he's still thrilling us. Buzz. He's a beauty.
Yeah, that is the truth, Bradley, and lots of recognition there yesterday for the great man as well. And Marty and I were talking a little bit about this off-air yesterday. How very cool it is that a number of horse connections are now really taking on board the opportunity to name their horses after athletes that have meant a lot to a lot of fans. And what it does allow us is the opportunity to remember those particular people and their deeds, and the timing of this has just been so very special for the Buzz.
Well, give me just 30 seconds. I know we're going to talk about footy, but Anthony Miffin, you'd be familiar with that name. I mean, Mitho had a lot to do with sport and loved the Tigers on their board there at one stage. He breeds a lot of these horses that do get either unsold or bred by the owners, and they come up with these names. So when he came up with Buzzusto, the Buzz took a real shine to it, Marty, I tell you. He used to ring him all the time, how's the Buzz going? Is he going? All that sort of stuff. But when he used to ring him up, Short, he used to go, "Oh, it's the greatest number 4 for Carlton here." Smith would go, "Well, your voice is not as deep as Stephen Kernahan's."
Whack.
Whack, and he'd go, "I get stuffed." And he's how's the horse? Yeah. He loved the horse. I always got a text from the Buzz. He said, "The Buzz is going well this week, Brad. The Buzz is going to win this week, Brad." I said, "Oh, God, yeah, Buzz." And, it is. And as you know, there's Cottagio, there's all sorts of names going on. Hawkins is another one out there. I don't know. Doug thinks it's him. Tom Hawkins thinks it's him. I'm not sure.
There's time for a Hardie yet. It's brewing.
Oh, yeah, we'll get one in the Jimmy Taylor camp one day soon, I'm sure.
Okay, let's have a look at this Retrovision text line. This is a big one here from Jim of Pommy Pie. Morning, boys. Some reflection on the Dockers Pies game. How can a team have only one game plan that wasn't working and change nothing? Dockers were woeful, but game plan comes from the coach. JL needs to go. Meanwhile, look at Dacos, tagged, so they threw him up front for a period, and he grabs a goal. Pies were slick. And also, can we talk about the umpires? There have been some shockers this round, none more so than Schultz. Game should have been stopped for that injury, but the umpires didn't see it. There were 47,000 fans that saw it, but 4 field umpires and the one in the stand communicating with them didn't. Beggars belief. Jim, Pommy Pie.
Oh, well, we could talk about the umpires forever. Look, there was a couple of instances last night in the showdown and in the top end, everywhere. There was a fair income, not an ankle tap, an absolute trip in the goal square yesterday for Cosy Pickett that all went unnoticed. So, yes, I agree with that. But just on Fremantle, look, they weren't completely hopeless. But I think in the end, Fremantle were overstated and Collingwood were understated in their performances because all the numbers, they keep getting seduced by numbers. And that's one. There's only one number that matters, Shorty. It's the scoreboard.
Correct.
It's the only one that matters in the end, unfortunately. And I'm just saying, from Collingwood's point of view, to come over with those 4 guys out of the team, and I think we all agree, we know how good Pendlebury and De Goey are and Maynard, but the bloke they missed most of all was going to be Mychek because he straightens them up, and he really he does a great job. And then to quell the Dacos boys and do limited time on side bottom, for Collingwood to win that was fantastic. And he was out-strategised, and I'll tell you how he's out-strategised. I know you'll have to think back. This is radio, but you'll have to live with me here. Think back to how many times Fremantle dominated to getting the ball into their own 50, but on the rebound, how many times you had Bobby Hill or basically Jamie Elliott or Hoskin Elliott or Dacos, one out or two out, running back with the flight of the ball or on their own in the 50-metre. They've got to have that plan B, and they didn't have that. And it cost them really, really dearly the other day. So well done to the Pies. And Fremantle, you're right, Shorty. There's nothing wrong with making some points and what you'd like to do, but the continuation of the flag mantle. And you watch again this week. We'll have who will we have on Monday? We'll probably have Andrew Brayshaw on Monday. We'll have him doing an interview, and then we'll have Caleb Sarong on Tuesday, and then we'll have Jordan Clark on Wednesday. They've just really. I'm an outlier. I'm on the outer. They should be looking now. I'm making the call. They should be looking now for someone else. This has not been for 1 year, 2 years. This is a sixth year. And in my eyes, I think he's a terrific young man, Justin Longmire. He's a lovely young man. There's no problem with all that. That's not about his character or anything like that. He's not up for it. They're not up for it under him, and they won't win one as long as he's coach.
They need a circuit breaker, Fremantle. So, and I don't. So they're in a position where they've signed up nearly the majority of the talent that they rate for the next 3, 4, 5, 6 years. So this is the list that they've really gone chips in on. The only thing that they can change is the coach. You can't get rid of 3/4 of your playing list and start from scratch again. And I've spoken to Marty about this, Brad. Now's actually a very good time to be looking for a senior coach. There's some high quality talent that are not currently engaged. I think none more so than John Longmire. I personally, if I'm Fremantle, I'd be my ideal goal would be to go to Geelong and get Chris Scott, but the reality of that is very unlikely. But you're talking about wish list and you're talking about a big checkbook. He's the first man I'd check in on. If he's not available, then John Longmire, I'd be having a really good chat to him about the possibilities that may be in store. I've been on that, and whether it's John Longmire or someone who's been there and done that and achieved, and to walk into that change room shed at Coburn and just give it to them. Because the tail's been wagging the dog down there for too long. They don't play like a team, Shorty. They play for stats, and they love puffing those up. And their idea of leadership is to get more stats. Again, in the third quarter the other night, Marty, you saw it. The fans were getting rattled. Like the ball was going backwards, sideways. There was a situation there at one stage, Jordan Clark, who had high numbers again, but he was stood there for must have been 3 or 4 seconds, Shorty. And Collingwood said, "Well, we're not coming at you, mate. You got to get rid of the ball." You know what I mean? Yeah, you make a decision. You got it. You make a decision. Yeah. They're starting to jeer. They're all telling me, our guys are doing the game, and no disrespect, this is not personal attacks. This is just on their career. Luke Ryan, he got a terrific game by Luke. He had 4 kicked on him by Elliott. 4. And I'm saying, you're watching the same game as me. He would beat Usain Bolt to the goal square to kick the ball in, because that gives him a stat, because he never kicks from inside the square. He runs out of the square every time and puffs up these things. Look, they don't have that plan B. It's just not in Justin Longmire, or should I call him J-Lo? That's all. Because everybody howling me down, because all the sycophants come out and all want to be his friend. We've got enough friends. We're not here to be friends. We're here to try and get Fremantle into contention, let alone win a premiership. Jeez, I can far away now as they were 10 years ago. I can tell you that a lot of the sponsors and the mid to high level sponsors aren't happy. They are fuming. They shouldn't be. They are raging. Well, it's just there's no creativity. And the other thing is, so the game plan that he's teaming up with, the slow and methodical build, was at 6, 7, 8 years. It's old news. Old news. It really is. Now you've got to be able to score and score quickly. And the other thing about it, it's a really taxing game style, because you're relying on low, slow, long down the line, and guys like Josh Tracy, guys like you're relying on Amos, you're relying on Jackson. There's only so many contests that you can win when you're up against 3 or 4 other blokes in the air. I think it's high time that they have a look at some alternatives, Brad. And the only proven coach they've ever really had, Ross Lyon, took them to a grand final. If there's no proof in the pudding there, I don't know where it is. And I'll give them more fizz yesterday, because they had them all dialing off the SMS line for retrovision and etc. Was the bottom line was, I said, look, they've got to make some circuit breakers, as you say, changes. Amos has got to go. He's got to go out. I mean, he's just playing poorly. He's tabbing up
2.0 at the moment. We read all summer how he built himself up and was gigantic. He's ready to take on all of the fullbacks. Well, I haven't seen it. Fredericks, they build the fence to keep him in the ground. The bottom line is they've got to get rid of a few of these blokes who just are recidivists, because when the things are good and they're playing well, those guys play well. When the shots hit the wall and you're looking for something back, you're not getting it. And I didn't mind that boy Cooper Simpson just the other day. He made a mistake there where he pushed a player in the back and cost a down the ground free kick. But the bottom line, I didn't mind him. I think I want to see a little bit more of him for a month. And, they've got a really taxing, testy next few weeks, as we said, Marty, last week, running up into the bye. And it starts next week with the Giants. Now, the Giants aren't in great form, but you could hardly tip against them up there in Sydney at NG Stadium the way the Dockers are playing.
Is it time for the Jackson Darcy duo to be... I mean, really, how long is it going to take for us to tweak? So one of them has to be on the market at the end of the season. You shop them around actively and say, boys, we've done our best to try and make this work.
Doesn't work.
It's not working. One of you is wasted every time, and the big fellow, I hate to say it, but you're playing one light as soon as the ball hits the ground. He's just not mobile enough to compete and run with his opponent.
Feel sorry for him. Got hurt the other night. Bad luck. Never took a mark the whole time he was out there. Not one. So, but you're right, Shorty. But who's going to take him now? Because they're on big money, and they'll end up running the risk, and they're already running the risk. It's right and mighty over this side of the country. I'm sure you would have heard the reverberations over there. Luke Jackson wants on the move. He, whether it's Melbourne or Geelong or whatever. Whether it's his girlfriend, he is getting really, really frustrated. He was involved in their first 4 sorties forward and scoring for sorties on Friday night, and then they moved him. And then when Big Sean Darcy went off, he came into it again. So it's just not even. And and good on. And I'm happy to name names. I'm not picking fights, but I think Paul Hazel he's penned a pitch something online over the weekend. Well, that's great. Welcome to the party. I mean, we've been saying this for a long, long time, but they don't want to. They say they don't listen to the white noise outside. Well, they should, because a lot of the white noise has given them a lot more think time and a lot more options than they were thinking of their own inside the 4 walls. Because the only one that knows the plan at the moment is the coach, clearly, because the ones the players are playing to isn't a good one.
Let's go back to the other games. St Kilda and Carlton, 62-77, a very dour affair.
Yeah, Marty, we picked it in one. We gave St Kilda a chance, just couldn't transfer early that defensive mode under the roof to the MCG. And there was, Curnow and Mackay, sort of getting off the chain a little bit there. And when the game was on the line, it was frustrating. I mean, St Kilda probably had a few chances. It wasn't a hopeless performance, which is a woeful game to watch in the second half. But it was really a lockdown city. And in the end, the best players for Carlton stood up. As I said, Curnow, Mackay got 3 each. Cripps continues to do what Cripps does. Hewitt is going really well. I thought Walsh got into the game, Wiedering down back, controlling things in that department. So, for Carlton, was it super impressive? No. But again, given the situation where they've been at this year, Shorty, just bank the 4 points and run.
This is from Leo of Bunbury. A lot better round of AFL so far. All games very competitive and close. Were competitive and close, I should say. Bottom 8 spot up for grabs. Who gets it? Just looking at it, would it, with their easy draw, would it be Carlton at this stage? Would they be favourites?
Look, I mean, it's a little bit early, but you're right. But as we said, we've been discussing this for last week as well, that, it's starting to get to that stage where clearly you've put a line through the ones down the bottom. Sydney just about shot themselves in the foot completely last night. Port Adelaide, they'll be nuisance value. So will St Kilda. Fremantle will be nuisance value. Carlton, can they get it right? Can the Giants get back on? And your boys slip in there after last night, Marty. So, there's still a few vying for that one. I think we can't go too early. And some of those teams up the top, sort of like a good win by the Suns last night. The Dogs played out of their skins, they really did, but they didn't win. But there's still, look, mathematically, it's going to be optional for a little while yet. But they're Carlton are a chance. They've got a similar draw, same draw as last year, and if they can get to slide through a few of the games that they handed up last year, they'd be a chance.
All right, we saw Melbourne take on Hawthorn yesterday at the MCG. Yeah. It was a real arm wrestle for 3 quarters, and then Hawthorn jacked up the muscle, flexed up, and put a gap on Melbourne in that last quarter. It was probably as good a quarter of footy as they've played for the season, to be fair. They really did jack up late.
It was a good effort by Melbourne for 3 quarters. They had their chances. They were inaccurate kicking. That kills you. Doesn't help you. As I say, they got a couple of raw into the prawns with... missed free kicks, etc. But unfortunately, that's the way it rolls. But in the last quarter, Shortte, it was a bit like a breeze up, with Winks and a training pony. In the last quarter, they just said, right, let's just open up here a little bit. Let's just breeze up the last 400. And, really put them to sleep. Maxi Gawn continues to try. Oliver went into a different role. They changed his role yesterday. He sort of went with Newcomb, so they sort of counteracted each other. They missed Viney, there's no doubt about that. The Hawks have got so many options. Gunston's just playing superb football. I mean, he missed a few, but he got a few as well. And, everybody lifted and when the time was right. And you just felt as though they were just going along nicely, Marty, and then they said, right, in the last quarter, let's put it in 5th gear and we'll cruise away. And cruise away they did. You wouldn't believe they won by 6.
Yeah, they got gears. Weddle was the one who really sparked them, I thought. And as you said, Johnston playing well. Melbourne have found another kid. This Langford's impressive.
Oh, yes, he was a terrific player. And again, it's just that raw energy and the want, for a forward that he was playing. He's undersized. I mean, he's still got a lot of growing to do, Shorty. But it was his mentality that really won me over. And what I mean by that is sometimes they play out-of-form forwards down back. And why do they do that? Because the ball's in front of them, they play on a good man, they get taken to the ball, and they go for everything. At the other end of the ground, they're going, I'm in Shorty's way, I'm in Marty's way, I don't think I'll go for that one, I might go for the next one. It's almost like trying to pick a wave. Surf. Yep. This kid says, no, I don't care, Fritz. I don't care if the ball's there to be got, I'm going to get it. And that's what I loved about his performance as much as his 3 goals was the fact that, he just threw himself caution to the win, as they call it. And, he took a couple of great grabs and, he went where, as Frank Sparrow used to say, Shorty, where angels fear to tread.
Indeed, yeah. But a lot of guts and determination shown by the young man. Onto the Bombrays v Sydney clash. Bad kicking is bad football. Percy Johnson told me that there at Melville High School as a young fellow. Bradley, he was bang on the mark. Sydney, 8-15-63, so 23 scoring shots to Essendon, 11-5-71, despite 7 more opportunities. Essendon were 8-point winners. Sydney just took forever to wind up. It was like the stayer that's been going around over the 2 miles up against a sprinter. Essendon put the gap on them. Sydney tried to rev up late, and they got some opportunities but couldn't put it on the board.
I think Marty and I were only one of the few that picked Essendon, and everybody was sort of thinking Sydney could come back, and they do play well under the lid, but I don't mind Essendon at this ground. And look, it was really, really good. Caddy, these 3 goals. He's got a tank now.
Yeah.
He didn't have a tank before. He struggled. He was sort of one of those guys that was in and out of games, and their leaders, even Merritt, he was quelled in terms of numbers, but he still got a couple, and he was still able to contribute, and I think that's where they're better. Redmond, these sort of guys, their leadership has been a little bit better. I think that's the word I'm looking for. And Sydney, and look, the only disappointing thing for me is for Coxie. Obviously, they're sort of pretty much out of the fight now. But the disappointment I've got for Marty and the Essendon fans, you don't deserve to win games if you don't kick a goal in the last quarter, unless you're 20 in front. And they were very lucky. Sydney were coming, and they did spray it a fair bit there a couple of times and had their opportunities. But if what maybes, we get all that. But well done to Essendon. They got the win, and they're in the 8th now. And it'll be interesting. Terrific game coming against the Dogs next weekend.
Losing Lewis Hayes was a disaster, though, for them. First game, playing so well, he just doesn't look out of place. And then to do a knee like that, looks like it's an ACL. So just another one for the Dons. It's a tragedy.
It was good to see O'Hooley get an opportunity. I thought he was good yesterday.
He was better. Look, if they can learn to play 4 quarters of footy. And they've got a lot of inexperienced players in this team that haven't played a lot together. But they're certainly trending the right way for mine, but very lucky to win.
One other point out of it, Brad, there's still for me room for a good tagger in every side in this competition. And you, as a coach, you're being derelict of your duties if you are not trying to develop one. And yesterday's another great example. Zach Merritt has dominated the possession scene and the leadership scene for Essendon for a long, long period of time. Pop on Bear Jordan to him and once again restricts him to under 20 disposals for the game. He is just an absolute blanket, this guy, and probably the best in the business right now, Bradley. Whoever he goes to, they find their numbers really strongly affected, and often it affects their leadership role as well because they become frustrated and anxious, and it does open up opportunities for other players. But for me, I still would like to have a good tagger in my football side.
Oh, no doubt. And it's a different form as well. You know, it's not the Shane Hurd type or the Mickey Gaither type. I mean, because players like that in the past, when those guys were doing it, may not have got it more than 10 times. I mean, you can't not get it in today's game. You know, you cannot not get it. You know, you can always find a little bit of space at some stage, you know, or get a turnover and be used, etc. But as I say, but Merritt, when he's normally on his game, I mean, he's in charge. And him as a leader, and I always believe in this, even the leaders lose a little bit of confidence, as you say, Shorty, if they're not getting the ball. You know, the words don't come out of the mouth. You know, you're thinking, oh, I'm saying do as I say, don't do as I do. You know what I mean? And a lot of the leaders like to do as, you know, to be setting the example. But you're right, 100%. And there is certainly a place for it. And, yeah, I'm sure going into finals at the end of this year, there's a few who'd like to be pinching James Jordan and a couple of others around the competition to do that role exactly for them in the finals in September.
It was amazing how the two Saturday night games mirrored that Essendon City game. So those last three games were so similar in nature, where the leader was away and home and gone, like at Gold Coast when they sprinted clear of the Western Bulldogs in that last quarter. You thought, oh, well, they're home. And then all of a sudden the spirit of the Bulldogs almost stole that. And then in the showdown, Adelaide were home and hose, and Port came streaming back, and that game was up for grabs. So tell us about the two matches.
Well, I was watching with a gaggle of girls, if that makes sense. All Bulldog supporters are screaming at the TV. Oh my God! I said, just calm the farm. I mean, like they were superb. It was a terrific game of football. Geez, the conditions are tough. They are tough. There's no doubt about it. You know, Rioli and all the Indigenous boys who played so well for the Suns, Shorty, even they were feeling it. You know, I mean, it was a walk in the park, and it's very, very humid, as you know, 29 degrees, and they put it in. They really, really did put in, and I thought it was a cracking game of footy, and well done to the Gold Coast Suns. They keep that, you know, perfect record up there since they've sort of played those back-to-back games over the last 3 or 4 years. But I certainly didn't lose any friends out of the Bulldogs. I mean, I'm just hoping it doesn't have too much of an impact going forward. You know what I mean? Because Freesia was out on his feet there at one stage, and he's a young bloke on the move. And I thought, well done. You get a little bit of rubs of the green here and there. Classic there was, Marty, I don't know if the listeners would have seen it, when the two draft horses, when Big Tim English ran down Jack.
Yes, Witsy.
Yes.
Witsy saw the goals, the old eyes opened up.
Big time.
I'm spreading.
Going like a statue.
They both had a bit of a giggle and they handed each other up. But, it's good for the Suns, and they've got Hawthorn coming that way next week. They had to win one of the two, Marty. We said that. Well, they've banked one of them anyway, Shorty, and they've got Hawthorn next week. And, of course, the Dogs come back to town and take on Marty's Essendon, so it should be a cracker. Just a good thing for the Bulldogs now is that they've really hung tough there for a while, and it would have been nice to win last time. It's opening up a little bit for them in the back end of the year because they got 9 of the last 14 at Marvel.
You talk about young forwards and how it can take them a little while to develop, but a few times last night when Jed Walter give him another year, 18 months in the game, another pre-season, he is going to be a big human being that is going to be very difficult to stop when he gets a head of steam up. And similar to Caddy, like you think of Josh Tracy a couple of years ago, they lack a little bit of confidence. They get to a lot of marking contests but can't always clunk them. They don't always necessarily kick big bags of goals, but all of a sudden those bigger guys just have a season where bang, it all gels and away they go. I get the feeling that he could be one of those guys, maybe not next year but the year after. And we've seen it at the Crows this year with Thilthorpe and also Fogarty, who've promised a bit, but when they eventually work it out, they go from being gangly awkward to bang game changers.
Yeah, and they just support too, both in the air and ground level. I mean, because they're always going to attract, when you're becoming the gun like Caddy or Tracy, as you said, these guys are going to get the best defender most of the times from the opposition. So they do a bit of a chop out at some stage, whether that's in the air, someone else flying and can be third man up in a contest, or just give them an assistant at ground level. Just say, hey, you don't have to mark every ball, Josh. Like bring it to the ground and bring these others into the game. But at the moment, a lot of them are left on like a shag on a rock to try and handle themselves, and it's not easy at a young age.
Showdown was a ripper. It never ever fails to deliver this. To be 28 all in 56 games going to this one, it comes down to 5 points, and it ended up coming down to a magnificent, courageous mark from the Irishman, Mark Keane, going back with a flight.
Yes.
What a beauty.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It was an absolute ripper, and that'll be shown on repeat over and over and over again. I mean, and that's, and there was two sorts of courage there last night in the game. So it was that courage of Mark Keane to run back with the flight of the ball in desperation times and take a timely grab. And the other one was both the Suns and the Dogs, the courage to keep running when you can't.
Yeah.
It's two different types of courage, but you get my point. But that was a terrific game. I was watching the end of it because it was started a little bit later, and you got it really invested in it. And Finlayson was hard done by there at one stage in the court. Could have just changed things, but. Good on Port Adelaide. I mean, to be beaten by 90 points the week before, Marty, I don't like tipping teams like that, but we thought the Crows would win and they had all the cards, but they just keep finding a way, Port Adelaide. He hasn't lost them, Kenny. He just keeps he keeps churning them out. They might have a bad one here or there, but they're still got to be reckoned with for the time being. As I say, I don't think they'll make the 8. Port Adelaide, but I think they'll certainly have a big say in shaping it. And Adelaide, if they can continue to just again take the 4 points and run and continue to mount wins as the season rolls on, there's every chance they could be in the 8.
Gee, I've got a bit of a man crush, Ben Keys, Adelaide. The running that this guy does within a game of football, and sometimes, a lot of the time, he doesn't actually get hit up with it, but from one end of the ground to the other, he just keeps going forward, back. He's a monster. He was really good again last night.
He was a tagger, wasn't he? He was a tagger, and now he's a goal kicker as well. He just constantly keeps hitting the scoreboard.
Thilthorpe was massive. He's got 4 dislocated fingers.
It's horrible scenes. It is horrible scenes. There's just tape everywhere.
See some of the marks he takes.
He's
amazing.
A beauty.
Amazing.
It reminds me of John Todd.
Toddy's,
You used to froth at the mouth and he'd yelling and screaming, and normally he wasn't he was just generally looking, but you just used to rely on his fingers as to who's he pointing at.
Okay, 3 games today. We've got to get cracking here. Richmond, West Coast. Can West Coasters get their first win of the season?
I don't think so. I'm going with the Tigers on this one, Marty. As I said, this is paramount for West Coast because they haven't got a win on the board. Not many opportunities coming to win, so wooden spoon if they don't win today.
Geelong and GWS. It looks like GWS have put the cue in the rack here. They've just got no pace on the park. Surely Geelong get it done.
Bedford out as well.
Yeah,
so that would have been either go with player with probably Bailey Smith or Holmes or one of those. But look, the Cats won't let us. It's a beautiful day for football here, boys. So load up on the score points, maybe on the Cats, because it promises to be a beautiful day down there. And the Giants will look to next week against Freo.
And then surely Brisbane get it done against North Melbourne. Yep.
Yeah, I think so. Again, but probably allow, because what the Lions do, they'll underestimate North Melbourne in terms of, they'll just think we'll just show up and outscore them, and that'd probably be a high scoring. So maybe unders and overs for that game, I would have thought, Bush.
Just before you go, Snoz has sent this one into you. Brad, did I hear a Docker supporter state, if Amos played at centre forward, he could be another Royce Hart? Yeah. So, if so, this was a joke, I hope. Amos to be one of many to go back to the twos. P.S. Brad, I don't mind you use my statement, the scoreboard is the only stat that counts, because I using that statement, I use your statement, I only went to school to eat my lunch.
Nice.
Yeah, our bloke rang in yesterday, really respected. He was a journo, he's a terrific guy, and I agreed to disagree with him. You know, he was sort of saying Amos was sort of reminded him of Royce Hart, and I said, well, they kick with the same leg. Everything else, no. Unfortunately, and look, as I say, Amos is probably slightly better than Tavernar, but the same things happen. He just wants to get out the back all the time, you know.
He's stagnant. He's stagnant, isn't he?
Yeah, and he wants to kick a goal with every possession he got. They threw him on the wing there for a bit, got a couple of touches, but again, just no impact on the game. Josh Tracy must be feeling really, you know, so not let down, but under pressure. He's got to manfully battle everybody out there at the moment on his own. So anyway, now we'll get out with the Sunday Saviour, boys.
Here we go.
Mudgee race 2, number 5, Tiger Lap. It's $3.70 for Bjorn Baker. Then we'll go to Queanbeyan race 4, number 11, Magic Speed at even money there, Marty.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll go down to Ballarat race 6, number 8, Gin Barber. I know our mother loves a little gin. So
yes.
It's all right. So $3 for that one. So race 2, number 5 at Mudgee, race 4, number 11 at Queanbeyan, and race 6, number 8 at Ballarat. $3.70, $3 Shorty, $22.20 for me and Ginger today.
If you don't mind, punters, and what about for your great sponsors? First off, Group 1 Morts.
Oh, yeah. Group 1 Morts, so you can see his picture above your head there, Shorty. I know you're looking. And then you've got the nude nut, 1-800-100-100. He can do things the banks can't. And don't forget Frankie Lee during the week too. He's statewide as well, boys, and he's a champion.
Yes, he's a beauty. When's that wine auction on? We might have to get some.
Friday. Every Friday afternoon. Get online. Get yourself a nice little bit of vino there and something, or maybe a champers or something like that. Sit down, watch the races, and watch Pizzusto win by 6, and then watch your team win or lose on the Saturday or Sunday night. That's all.
Well, we'll tune in tomorrow morning and listen in on the Sports Daily.
Let Marty Young and David Shortte do all the talking on the Aftermath. Sunday morning at its best on Tab Radio Racing and Sport.
Racing. First away, Graceful Rain. Across from the outside, Rosie Brown. Next thing you know, Sunset Oyster, Federal Focus 5th. Then West on Nocky. Fast Bite has one behind her, and that's Simple Sally. Next thing you know, Rail to the front. Over Graceful Rain, Rosie Brown running a cheeky race. And then Sunset Oyster and Fast Bite. Next thing you know, the leader, Rosie Brown's getting up on the rail. Graceful Rain's coming back. Fast Bite flies, but Rosie Brown's won the Oaks. Rosie Brown over Graceful Rain.
Big results Friday night there. Rosie Brown getting the job done for the Chili Man, Michael Johnston, who's been good enough to join us on the Aftermath this morning. Good morning to you, Chili Man. David Shortte and Marty Young with you this morning. Congratulations. That would have been a nice surprise for you there on Friday night. Well done.
Yeah, it was, Shorty. It's certainly unexpected. When the draw came out, I thought, we'd probably struggle to get around the field, especially with the 8 drawn where it was. I thought we'd get sort of chopped out of it early, but she just happened to begin really well, and the 8 sort of just missed it a fraction, and yeah, it worked out really good for her.
Life's all about timing, and Rosie Brown certainly was there at the right time to strike. Graham's been pretty consistent on the way through. Prior to Friday night, had won 7 of 37 with another 13 placings. But to win a race like this, basically doubled its earnings in one hit.
Yeah, she's been going really good the last few weeks, Shorty. She's been, as you say, really consistent, and she's just been beginning relatively well and put herself up there, and she got a lot of good breaks on Friday night, but that's all you need to win sometimes. So it was great.
Absolutely. Now, you haven't had Rosie Brown for a truckload of time. Tell us a little bit about how you got your hands on Rosie Brown.
I've known Frank Lowry, the owner, for a few years now, and he was just looking to. He had 2 dogs with another trainer. He was looking to change kennels, so he asked me if I'd give him a go, and I was more than happy to. And she's probably going really good, and the other one, I got another James, probably going a little bit disappointing at the moment, but no, she's since I've had her, she's really gone well. So it was just just a change of kennel, mate, just to try and change things up with the dogs.
It's worked nicely. The Chili Man polish has got the job done there. On to the WA Oaks now for this girl.
Yeah, that's the natural progression. She's never gone over the 500 at Cannington, but she's had a few runs there over the 380. So, she looks like she'd be strong enough to run the 520. So, yeah, she'll have a look up there next week and I think the heats are the week after. So, yeah, well, hopefully she goes good.
Michael, these can always be dangerous questions, but the Chili Man, where did that come from?
Oh, that was Pete O'Neill. We were on holiday in Bali, and it was just not much. It's built up to be more than it is, but it was just an incident at dinner one night when we were eating. But
you ate all the chilies.
It's not a great story. Yeah. So accidentally, So that's all it is.
Got a little bit warm, Chili Man, but don't worry about that. Your kennel's running warm because you turn up at Cannington last night, 600-metre race, and lo and behold, Tilly Rose bobs up 41 into $23, gets the cash over the 601 metres, and this is another greyhound that you haven't had for all that long, but able to get the job done. Was a good result again there last night at the big odds. Do you have something on?
No, Shorty, I didn't. She hasn't been going very well. She hasn't been chasing very well lately, and so I've actually had her, mate, since she started racing. But in the last probably 5 starts, she had a season months ago, and she just hasn't come back from that. But I thought her last run last week at Mandurah was a lot better, but. Yeah, I didn't trust her enough to have anything on last night, mate. But I was really rapt for her and the syndicate, that owner, for them to win a nice race like that. You know, it's really good money in those races, and they put a lot in. So it's good for getting something back for them.
Yeah, absolutely. The camp's in a bit of form, which is great to see, Mike, and delighted for your success. Anything for the punters to keep an eye out for from the camp over the next few days that you got nominated?
Oh, I've got 3 in on Wednesday night. Because Rapido Pronto's in the first race, and if he begins a bit better, I think he should win. But he just hasn't been beginning as well as he should lately. But we'll do a bit of work with him today and try and get his head right to come out the boxes.
Excellent. Well, hopefully he can come out firing, and congratulations to you, mate. Great to see you take out that feature on Friday night at Mandurah. I know you do a wonderful job with your team. You don't have a huge number of dogs, but the ones that you do have, you generally get the very best out of. So continued success to you, and thank you for joining us this morning on The Aftermath.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me on.
Well done, Michael. There he goes, Michael Johnston. Just before we get to Emily Suvaljko, we've got a few to get through here off that text line for Retrovision. Group 1 Morts. This is from Neil. Morning, boys. I fear for the Bears based on a club that failed in an NRL market. WA previous NRL club, the Reds, failed commercially. The NRL competition is propped up by poker machines. Unless Burswood sponsors the Bears, we are bugged, just like Glory and Force. Or buggered, I think it would be. And with Volandis, he is such a genius in New South Wales Racing, which he manages, are trying to sell their second main racecourse, Rose Hill, to pay for his ridiculous spending on slot racing. That is from Neil. I think there's a big difference between this time with the Bears and the previous time with the Western Reds, because remember the big split in NRL happened at that time, or ARL, it was the Super League came in, and
there were uncertain times for the sport.
Yep.
They're a lot more stable.
But they had 20-odd thousand turn up, 24 for their first game. They were averaging about 13 to 11,000 at that time. I just think they'll be okay, provided they get the right people running the club and the right players over. They can make a go of it.
What they need to be is like the Brisbane Lions in Brisbane, and like the Sydney Swans in Sydney from an AFL converted flip round. To be successful as the sport that's not the number one sport, you need to be consistently in and around the place for finals, because everyone loves a winner.
Yep.
And so that model works. The Sydney Swans in Sydney, Brisbane Lions in Brisbane, when they're up and running, They get really good numbers turning up to the crowd. They get good corporate support, and they have found a way to maintain consistency and success, those football clubs. And accordingly, those teams in those out-of-market areas have still been a success. We need similar. It needs to be well organised. Hence the chat going around about someone like Bellamy. We saw the Dolphins do it with Wayne Bennett.
Yep.
Be great to have an iconic sort of figure come across here to WA and set it up and really get it rolling.
Sam Mitch, this is Frank of Queen's Park. Yes, Freo needs a coach that has been there before, but my heart nearly stopped when I heard Simpson's name being mentioned, only if he comes with Sam Mitchell. I've got to say, Simo's been a star in the media. He's really surprised me. You don't agree?
Oh, no, I think he's brought a different angle to a lot of his media where he's taken us almost inside the coach's box, which I've liked. There hasn't been a lot of that previously that's been explained to the level that he explains it. I personally think, given that he's been in WA and all of the sort of link to the Crosstown Club, he wouldn't be the one that I'd have on the top of my list personally. But that's okay. Everyone's got their own ideas. I would honestly Chris Scott would be on the top of my hit list if I could really just pick him, and I don't think he'd want to move because Geelong are in that space again. You won't get him out of town. But John Longmire is available.
He is available.
And he has, we talk about continued sustained success and having a hard edge. He's had that at Sydney. A lot of the years that they qualified for finals, they weren't entitled to. And a lot of that came down to him being a wonderful coach, preparing his team, and he knows what it's about to get sides up consistently. And he's got a hard edge to him, which I think Fremantle need. Ross had a hard edge to him.
Yep.
I think sometimes it's okay to have a coach that you can be a little bit scared of. They're often the ones that bring the best out in people. I know we're moving with the times and you've got to be able to cuddle your players, but you also need to have a button to push to straighten everyone up and say, hey, enough of the fun and games now. It's time to roll up your sleeves, get down to business, and you'll be enjoying your football when we're winning because of this hard work.
That's what they respond. They respond even better now than they did then because they don't get it. And when they get it, they go, hello.
Exactly.
This is serious.
That's now you're talking my language.
Coming to the home turn, 28-2 the next quarter. Alter Tributes into the clear, coming after on the black flash strongly, and Lasaka is trying to join in as well. Then Ideal Muscle in the straight. Alter Tribute has raced up and taken the lead. Lasaka is giving chase. Alter Tribute in front. Emily's got the big double tonight. It's Alter Tribute clear from Lusaka, and Alter Tribute goes home to win by 2.5 metres to Lusaka. 6 metres away, third on the black.
Yes, as Richie Bell said then, Emily has got the big double, the 2 Group 3s to Emily Suvaljko. That was Alter Tribute winning the Allwood Stud 4 and 5-year-old championship. Emily joins us right now. Very good morning, Emily, and well done on what a night it was for you at Gloucester Park on Friday night.
Yeah, good morning, guys. It was quite unexpected as well. So, it was a very good night.
Outstanding. So you've taken out the 2 features. You've gone home with 4 winners on the program. It was a special night in the sulky for you. Let's talk about the 2 features to start off with. Alter Tribute, the race we just heard the replay of there for Gary Hall Senior. Really nice performance. This was a good lineup. The likes of On the Black Flash, they're looking to certainly test this horse. But talk us through the run you had and how confident you were in the run.
Yeah, it was obviously a very nice field. Obviously, that was offset by our barrier draw. We got barrier draw. We got the one, and I think that's what made all the difference. Obviously, Alter Tribute, he's a very nice horse, and he's a horse that's going to go through the classes very quickly, and he's going to be competitive in the races later in the year.
The previous race was the first of the features. The Group 3 was Breeders' Stakes, and success here aboard Penny Black for Michael Young. Again, a wonderful result.
Yeah, I was quite surprised when we actually got to the top. I thought we were going to have to do it in the breeze, and I thought she'd still run a big race from there. Obviously, we know she's tough as any mare going around, so I was quite expecting to be stuck in the breeze, but once we got to the top, I was quite confident after that.
It's an interesting one, Emily, isn't it? And it always has been, I thought, with harness racing, because the speed maps are done to an inch of their lives, almost every one. And most times, Emily, they do come up with the same map, most of the experts. So how do you go to the trots on a Friday night, think what you just said then, I'm going to end up in the breeze? You obviously have let's see how the horse jumps out of the barriers and go from there sort of attitude going in as well?
Yeah, with her, she's not blessed with that much gate speed. She probably got out the best she has, and hopefully she continues to get out quicker and quicker. But obviously I knew the one had the gate speed to hold me. All interviews throughout the week had been that the one was holding up. So I was quite certain I was going to be in the breeze at some stage. I thought something from our outside might actually try and run the gate, just knowing that Penny Black's not that quick out. And I thought then I'd have to make my mind up whether I was going back around or what I was doing from there. So, I had full intentions of just coming out as best as I could, sitting in the breeze and trying to dictate the race from there. But, when we were able to get to the front, I think Shane worked out that I was still going to put a fair bit of pressure on, knowing that Penny can't kind of walk and sprint home. So I was going to put a fair bit of pressure on, and she was the right horse to kind of sit on. And once we got to the front, I knew she'd run a really big race.
Yeah, just kept on fine. It was a good win too. The runner-up, Little Darling's been going particularly well, and even the form she's in, she wasn't able to get by Penny Black. It was a really nice performance.
Yeah, I was quite worried with her sitting on my back. Obviously, the map of it, she was going to be sitting 1-1, and obviously she's in really good form as well. But I probably couldn't really dictate the race to that, knowing if I went too slow, then the leader's going to get away from me. So kind of went out with the mindset that I was driving to beat the leader, and if Little Darling was good enough to get over me, then she would. But Penny, she loves the horse coming up from behind her, and she really gets going in the straight. So, it would have been good testing material to see if Little Darling could have sat on her and beaten her. But, Little Darling ran a very good race sitting outside her.
So after 2 Group 3s, you run into race number 6, and Montana DJ's an $8 chance. Your confidence levels must have been right up, and you've got the money here.
Yeah, Michael told me I'd be a genius if I got him home. He's an old horse and he's got his quirks. He doesn't always put his best foot forward, but he did that night. Obviously, the last 10 metres, his ears were pricking, and he was trying to stop, and he was walking to the line, but he'd put that much of a break on him that he could still get the win. Obviously, we got a very nice spot. I was confident with the way he went the week before. He'd run a really nice race over the 2900, and I was quite confident that he'd run a big race going into Friday night.
Excellent. And the good times rolled on. This was quite a performance. A Kushla McCree for our man Hayden King. Hopefully it was a big sling waiting for your end of this one. Emily, $15, knocking over the odds-on favourite Scooter B. This was the icing on the cake for a wonderful night at the track for you.
Yeah, it definitely was. She was probably the biggest surprise of them all. I drove her last start and wasn't overly happy, but throughout the week she worked well. She worked with Penny Black and got a fair bit more fitness under her belt. And we had all intentions of coming out the gate, hoping to find the front, and probably sitting on the favourite if it was there early enough. And she kind of got to the corner and started hitting my wheel and took charge. And I think hitting the wheel actually helped her in the end. But she proved how strong she can be once she hits the rail.
In spectacular form at the moment, Emily. Absolutely delighted for you. Well done on your feature race double and the 4-pack there. Gloucester Park headquarters on a Friday night. You're a young lady whose star is very much on the rise at the moment. We appreciate your time this morning here on The Aftermath. Continued success to you.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, Emily. And you know the All Up, the 4-timer?
How much?
On fixed odds.
One for $1.
Yeah, $1,687.
Oh, dear me. I'm sure there'd be one or two people out
Just
there that do the drivers,
yep.
Absolutely, the jocks, drivers, stuff like that. So, excellent. Marty, to all the mums out there, enjoy your Mother's Day.
Bet.
Make sure you spoil Mum today. I'll be having a little something, Jakey Waterman to have a good game today, and first goal, most goals around that space today.
Go Jakey.
Go, Jakey.